Hi everyone, it's so good to be here. I am blessed to be able to read Judges 14 through 17 today, so let's grab our Bibles and our glasses. Then Samson went down to Timon and saw a woman in Timon, one of the daughters of the Philistines. So he came back and told his father and mother, I saw a woman in Timon, one of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me as a wife. Then his father and his mother said to him, There is no woman among the daughters of your relatives or among all our people that you go and take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? But Samson said to his father, Get her for me, for she looks good to me. However, his father and mother did not know that it was of the Lord, for he was seeking an occasion against the Philistines. Now at that time the Philistines were ruling over Israel. Then Samson went down to Timon with his father and mother, and came as far as the vineyards of Timon, and behold, a young lion came roaring towards him. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily, so that he tore him as one tears a young goat through he had nothing in his hand. But he did not tell his father or mother what he had done. My. So then he went down and talked to the woman, and she looked good to Samson. When he returned later to her, he turned aside and looked at the carcass of the lion, and behold, a swarm of bees and honey were in the body of the lion. So he scraped the honey into the hands and went on eating as he went. When he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they ate it. But he did not tell them that he had scraped the honey out of the body of the lion. Then his father went down to the woman, and Samson made a feast there. For the young men customarily did this. When they saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him. Then Samson said to them, Let me now propound a riddle for you. If you will indeed tell it to me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out there, then I will give you 30 lines of wraps and 30 changes of clothes. But if you are unable to tell me, then you shall give me 30 linen wraps and 30 changes of clothes. And they said to him, Propound your riddle, that we may hear it. So he said to them, Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. But they could not tell the riddle in 3 days. Then it came on the 4th day that they said to Samson's wife, Entice your husband so that he will tell us the riddle, or we will burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us to impoverish us? Is this not so? Samson's wife wept before him and said, You only hate me, and you do not love me. You have propounded a riddle in the sons of my people, and have not told it to me? And he said to her, Behold, I have not told it to my father or my mother. Should I tell it to you? Whew. Good thing my marriage isn't like that. However, she wept before him 7 days while their feast lasted. And on the 7th day he told her, because she pressed him so hard. She then told the riddle to the sons of her people. So the men of the city said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? And he said to them, If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily, and he went down to Ashkelon and killed 30 of them, and took their spoil, and gave the changes of clothes to those who told the riddle. And his anger burned, and he went up into his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, who had been his friend. Oh. Verse 15. But after a while, in the time of the wheat harvest, Samson visited his wife with a young goat, and said, I will go to my wife in her room. But her father did not let him enter. Her father said, I really thought that you hated her intensely, so I gave her to your companion. Is not her young sister more beautiful than she? Please let her be yours instead. Samson then said to them, This time I shall be blameless in regard to the Philistines when I do them harm. Samson went and caught 300 foxes. This story is crazy. And took torches and turned the foxes' tails to tails, and put one torch in the middle between the two tails. When he had set fire to the torches, he released the foxes into the standing grain of the Philistines, thus burning up both of the shocks and the standing grain, along with the vineyards and groves. Then the Philistines said, "Who did this?" And they said, "Samson, the son-in-law of Timnite, because he took his wife and gave her to his companion." So the Philistines came up and burned her and her father's father with fire. Samson said to them, "Since you acted like this, I will surely take revenge on you, but after that I will quit." He struck them ruthlessly with a great slaughter, and he went down and lived in the cleft of the rock of Adam. Then the Philistines went up and camped in Judah and spread out and lay. The men of Judah said, "Why have you come up against us?" And they said, "We have come up to bind Samson in order to do him as he did to us." Then 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Edom and said to Samson, "Do you not know that the Philistines are rulers over us? What then is it that you have done to us?" And he said to them, "As they did to me, so I have done to them." Talk about revenge. They said to him, "We have come down to bind you so that we may give you into the hand of the Philistines." And Samson said to them, "Swear to me that you will not kill me." So they said to him, "No, we will bind you fast and give you into their hands, yet surely we will not kill you." Then they bound him with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the rock. When he came to Lehi, the Philistines shouted as they met him, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily. So the ropes that were on his arms were as flax that is burned with fire, and his bonds dropped from his hands. He found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, so he reached out and took it and killed 1,000 men with it. Then Samson said, "With the jawbone of a donkey, heaps upon heaps, with the jawbone of a donkey, I have killed 1,000 men." When he finished speaking, he threw the jawbone from his hand, and he named the place Rethmeleh. Then he became very thirsty, and he called to the Lord and said, "You have given this great deliverance by my hand of your servant, and now shall I die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" But God split the hollow place that is in Lehi, so that the water came out of it. When he drank, his strength returned, and he revived. Therefore he named it Eknahor, which is in Lehi to this day. So he judged Israel 20 years in the days of the Philistines. Chapter 16. Now Samson went to Gaza and saw a harlot there and went into her. Samson. Then it was told to the Gazites, saying, "Samson has come here." They surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city. And they kept silent all night, saying, "Let us wait until morning light, then we will kill him." Now Samson lay until midnight, and at midnight he arose and took hold of the doors of the city gate and 2 posts and pulled them along with the bars. Then he put them on his shoulders, and carried them up to the top of the mountains, which was opposite Hebron. After this he came about that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Samson is interesting. The lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, "Entice him and see where his great strength lies, and how we may overpower him, that we may bind him to afflict him. Then we will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver." So Delilah said to Samson, "Please tell me where your great strength is, and how I might bound to afflict you." Samson said to her, "If they bind me with 7 fresh cords that have not been dried, then I will become weak and be like any other man." Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh cords that had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now she had men lying in wait in her upper room, and she said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he snapped the cords as a string of tow snap when it touches fire, so the strength was not discovered. Then Delilah said to Samson, "Behold, you have deceived me and told me lies. Now please tell me, how may you bound me? May I bound you?" He said to her, "If they bind me tightly with new ropes which I have not been used, then I will become weak and be like any other man." So Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them and said to them, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson," for the men were lying in wait in her inner room. But he snapped the ropes from his arms like a thread. Then Delilah said to Samson, "Up to now you have deceived me and told me lies. Tell me, how may you be bound?" And he said to her, "If you weave the 7 locks of my hair with the web and fasten them with the pin, then I will become weak and be like any other man." Sounds like a nice hairdo. So while he slept, Delilah took the 7 locks of his hair and wove them into a web, and she fashioned it with the pin and said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he woke from his sleep and pulled out of the pin of the loom of the web. Then she said to him, "How can I say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have deceived me these great 3 times and have not told me where your great strength is." It came about, she pressed him daily with her words and urged him that his soul was annoyed to death. So he told her all that was in his heart and said to her, "A razor has never come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite of God from the mother's womb. If I am shaved, then the strength will leave me, and I will become weak and be like any other man." When Delilah saw that he had told her all that was in his heart, she sent him called the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up once more, for he surely has told me all that is in his heart." Then the lords of the Philistines came to her and brought the money in her hand. Wow. Samson's quite the character, and God's hand is still on him. It's beautiful. She made him sleep on her knees and called for the man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his hair. Then she began to afflict him, and his strength left him. She said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." And he awoke from his sleep and said, "I will go out as if all the other times and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. The Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes, and they brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze chains. And he was a grinder in the prison. However, the hair of his head began to grow again after it was shaved off. Now the lords of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice, a Dagon their god, and to rejoice, for they said, Our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hands." When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, "Our God has given our enemy into our hands, even the destroyer of our country, who has slain many of us." So it so happened that when they were in high spirits, that they said, "Call for Samson, that he may amuse us." So they called for Samson in the prison, and he entertained them, and they made him stand between 2 pillars. Then Samson said to a boy who was holding his hand, "Let me feel the pillars which the house rests, and that I may lean against them." Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there, about 3,000 men, and the women on the roof looking on while Samson was amusing them. Then Samson called to the Lord and said, "O Lord God, please remember me, and please strengthen me just this time, God, that I may once again be avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Samson grasped the middle of the pillars on which the house rested, braced himself against them, and with one of his right hand and the other with his left hand, and Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." And he bent all his might, so that the house fell on the lords and all the people who were in it. So the dead in whom he killed at his death were more than those whom he had killed in his life. Then his brothers and all his father's household came down, took him, and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol, and the tomb of Manahoh his father. Thus he had judged Israel 20 years. Chapter 17. Now there was a man of the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Micah. He said to his mother, "The 1,100 pieces of silver which were taken from you, about which you uttered a curse in my hearing, behold, the silver is with me. I took it." And his mother said, "Blessed be my son by the Lord." And he returned the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother. And his mother said, "I wholly dedicate the silver from my hands to the Lord for the son, to make him a graven image and a molten image. Now therefore I will return them to you." So when he returned the silver to his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave them to the silversmith, who made them into a graven image and the molten image, and they were in the house of Micah. And the man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and the household god, and consecrated one of his sons, that he might become his priest. In those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. Now there was a young man from Bethlehem in Judah, in the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he was staying there. Then the man departed from the city from Bethlehem in Judah to stay where he might find a place, and he said that he made his journey. And as he made his journey, he came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah. Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" And he said to him, "I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to stay wherever I might find a place." Micah then said to him, "Dwell with me, and be a father and a priest to me. I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year, a suit of clothing, and your maintenance." So the Levites went in. The Levite agreed to live with the man, and the young man became like him, one of his sons. So Micah consecrated the Levites, and the young man became his priest and lived in the house of Micah. Then Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will prosper me, seeing I have a Levite as a priest." Thank you, friends, for reading today. Don't be like Samson and try God. However, what a gift that he was still with him. Bless you.
Hi, my friends, and welcome to Fear into Faith Global Bible Revival, where we're on a mission to get 1 million people to read the Word of God cover to cover in a year. I'm your host, Summer Day, and with me in the studio is Natasha and Capri Schuerman. Welcome, ladies.
Hello, darling.
Hello, Capri, darling. Well, first question's obvious. How old are you?
8.
8 years old. We're not going to ask Mom how old she is.
Good.
We won't do that. So excited to have you guys here. This is the first time we've done an interview with a mom and daughter. So first times are always exciting. And tell everybody where you guys are from.
Where are we from?
Washington State.
Washington State. I heard that you like to talk in accents.
Yes, I do.
I was going to talk in some accents for this interview.
Yes, we are.
So you're from Washington State?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, where do you live right now?
Texas.
Texas.
We live in Fort Worth, Texas.
Fort Worth, Texas. Okay, but I know there's a great story that goes along with how did you get from Washington to Texas, Miss Capri?
Well, we were traveling for 3 years.
3 years.
For 3 years you've been traveling. Where'd you go?
How many states have we been to? 42.
42.
And
42
many of them,
states.
many times.
Okay,
Yes.
you guys went to 42 states in 3 years.
Mhm.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that, Natasha. How did that happen?
Yes, we were told to sell everything and follow him within 2 weeks. We didn't, but we gave everything away when we were told to and had to, because many things got ruined in our makeshift trailer that we opened months after we started traveling. And it was really, God was telling us to leave Washington and to keep traveling. As you know, the country was crazy in 2020.
Yeah, when did you guys leave?
October 2020.
October 2020.
Yes.
I know someone who left August 1st, 2020. Oh, wait, that was us.
Yes.
This is one of my favorite stories about meeting Natasha. I met you on a Zoom call from a Facebook challenge. We didn't know each other. And you told that story of lead. Like, God told you to sell everything and leave, and you left October 2020.
Yeah.
God told us to sell everything and leave, and we left August 2020.
Yes. And our
Yeah.
goal was Tennessee, actually.
You
But we
go
got there.
Tennessee?
Yeah.
Stop it.
I know yours was too. We got there and it was brown. From Washington to Tennessee, everything was brown. It was winter. And we're like, this isn't home. This isn't it. But our actual goal was to get to Maine for 2 years, which I hear that was your goal too. I'm like,
did you
what?
ever get to Maine?
We never did. We were 10 minutes from Maine and we had to have an emergency. And so we sped down to Florida. We had
And you guys, so we traveled in a 40-foot fifth wheel.
Yes.
A truck and a fifth wheel. What did you guys travel in?
little mini red.
Putt-putt.
A mini red. What is
Mini red van.
Yeah.
We call it our mini red putt-putt.
Yep.
So you guys are like extreme. You traveled in a minivan,
Yeah.
and then where would you stay?
We would rent Airbnbs. However, we didn't know where we were going to go. We had our set requirement, and then whenever it would pop up, that's when we would go. So I remember packing up, crying, God, are you going to show up again? Of course he's going to. It was 12 o'clock at night, and we found the Airbnb that we were going to leave at 8 o'clock the next day and get to, which was states away.
Oh, we should probably clarify a we. Who have you been traveling with, Capri?
Who do we travel with? Who's our caravan?
Who
Daddy?
else is in your family? Daddy and who else?
Her, of course.
Yeah, there's two more.
Roman and Oliver.
Robin and Oliver are who?
My younger brothers.
And how old are they?
6 and 3.
6 and 3, and you're 8, traveling for 3 years. You homeschool?
Yes. Well, we call it road school.
Road school.
At the time, I didn't know exactly how to homeschool. I wasn't planning to homeschool. And so we would just go to libraries. So we're members to over 25 libraries around the U.S.
Remember, I got 25 libraries.
And that's how we
That could be a record. I don't know. You've got to look into that.
Yeah. All the records.
So fun. I love it. You guys have such a crazy story. Do you have a favorite place that you traveled to that you remember? Natasha, what about you?
Yeah, I think one of the most surprising places was up through New Hampshire and through what's by New York, Vermont, and with all the maple syrup. And I loved it because we didn't know it, but at the time we had booked, and it was the changing of the season colors. Wow. So going through all of that, it was like the goodbye of Washington, but hello East Coast.
Yeah.
And that was such a gift because people would book and they were paying hundreds per hotels, and we had booked it weeks prior and we had no idea. So it was no different to us. So we were on the river next to all the fall colors with maple syrup, and the Airbnbs and hotels were just extravagant. There was like home cooked chefs, and
We never made it there.
over the Smoky Mountains. Let's go together.
I love it. We didn't talk about how, so we left August, you left October, traveling for 3 years.
Yeah.
And we're both in Fort Worth now, which is crazy because when I met you, you thought I was a crazy woman. Because when I found out you guys were traveling, I kind of half joked and I said, your daughter's amazing. It'd be great. Maybe, maybe when the Lord lets us know and we're done traveling, we could end up living in the same town. We could live 5 minutes from each other. We could just raise our kids together.
Into
And now we live 5 minutes apart in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah.
And neither one of us even knew. I had already been here and felt like the Lord was calling us to be here. We thought we were going to end up in Tennessee.
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys thought that too.
Yeah.
And here I was. I came back to Fort Worth. You guys happened to be there. I thought you were just there for a month. I ended up at your house. And you're like, no, the Lord told us to stay. And I'm like, what do you mean the Lord told me to stay? What are you talking about? Now we get to see you guys all the time.
And you have fun with the girls, don't you?
Yes.
We
Holy
love dance
Spirit,
parties.
life is the best life. That's all I'm saying. Come on. All right. Let's ask another question. So we just had you be a reader. You got to read in the other room. You're by far the youngest. We had a 17-year-old. Now we got you 8 years old. Yeah. And I wanted to share why we picked you, right? You, as far as we know, are the youngest person so far to finish our Bible challenge. So you started when you were 7 years old. And you were like, Mom, I'm going to read this cover to cover. And I remember you told me, and I was like, well, that's so cute. Well, she'll last like 5 days. And I remember when you lasted 5 weeks, and I'm like, she's real serious about this. And then I heard a rumor that you were like, Mom, they're reading too slow. I'm like a month ahead. I can't keep up with their slow pace that we were doing of reading it cover to cover. Did you really finish the whole thing?
Yeah. Yep.
Genesis to Revelation, the whole thing.
Yep.
Amazing. 8 years old, read the entire Bible, and I heard you're doing this year as well. You started over again. You're in your year 2. Come on. Okay. Do you have a favorite book in the Bible?
Well, I like Esther, and I also like Ruth.
Yeah. Why do you like Esther?
Well, because she listened to God.
She listened to God. Yeah.
And it has a lot of fun voices that I can do.
Well, I have all the fun voices. Okay. I have a really important question for you. Do you think other kids should read the Bible?
Absolutely, definitely, positive.
That's a great answer. Why? Why do you think they should read the Bible?
Because it teaches you a lot about God.
Mm-hmm.
And
why is that important? It's fun? Reading the Bible is fun. Why do you think learning about God's important?
Because he can protect you. He will protect you, and learning about him is interesting.
Learning about him is interesting.
Yeah.
Are there any parts of the Bible you didn't like?
All the parts about sacrificing, killing animals with your own hands,
It's about sacrificing and killing animals with your own hands.
and killing people with swords.
And killing people with swords. I kind of don't like those parts either. All right, I'm going to pause you guys really quick. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back right after this. I agree with you. I don't like those parts.
Kinky, curly, wavy, straight, no matter what texture of hair you have, your hair is uniquely you and can shine in its natural beauty, and you don't have to use harsh chemicals that hurt your hair to do it. Hair Rules has exactly what you need. Our non-toxic, nourishing blend of ingredients help you work with your unique hair texture and not against it. You've got beautiful and unique hair. It's time to start showing it. Visit ilovemytexture.com and treat your hair the way it deserves. Your choice, your hair, your rules. ilovemytexture.com.
Have you always wanted to sit at the table with high-powered CEOs and executives? It's time for you to take your seat and keep it. Join us for A Moment in the Boardroom with Sharon Botley,
Always room at the table for everyone, so don't fear. Come and join us here at the boardroom.
right here on Zonder TV.
Welcome back, my friend. We're in the studio with Natasha and Capri. Capri is 8 years old, and we're sitting here talking about, was there a part of the Bible you didn't like? And what was your answer?
All the parts about killing animals with your own hands.
Yeah.
And killing people with swords and just like leaving them to die in a room.
Yeah. There's definitely some parts in the Bible that I'm like, that's more intense than any movie I've ever seen, any book I've ever read. And yeah, I was wondering, like, she's 8 years old, she's reading some of this.
Yeah.
Were you like, that's a little advanced of a topic there for my 8-year-old. Was there ever a time when there was concern about that? or-
Absolutely. And I would bring that to my husband, and he's an amazing head of our house. And he said, God, would you just protect her mind and let her only hear what she's supposed to hear?
Mm.
And so when we were reading about certain words of promiscuity and stuff like that, she wouldn't even hear it. She just said, oh, this is Moses's mom's name. Like, she was just, it was the cute innocence of the ways that I wasn't ready to conversate with that yet. But when it did come up, I knew inside, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're actually talking about this. This is happening right now. I never got talked about this, but I knew my external experience with her was calm and peace, even though inside I was like, I don't know what I'm saying and how I'm doing this. And it was almost as if God was just speaking through me.
Yeah.
And it was good. And then we moved on.
Amen.
Yeah.
So good. Well, I agree with you. I don't like those parts. And I always tell people, you want drama, you want excitement, you want the Gladiator. That movie ain't got nothing on the actual Bible. As crazy as things that you see there, the Bible's got way more crazy stuff. Okay, what's your favorite kind of parts to read? I know you like Esther, but what other favorite parts? You like reading about, Jesus walking on water or any of that stuff?
Yeah, I like to read like well-known stories like from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Like Esther's story, of course.
Yeah. Tell me your favorite story about Jesus. What do you like?
Well, I like the story where Jesus heals a woman that's like sick, and then
The one where she touches his robe?
and then when he heals the dead girl.
The little girl? Yeah, and she comes back to life?
Yeah,
Why do you like that part?
because it shows his power.
Yeah.
It shows his power. Yeah, so good. What would you say, Natasha, to parents? Because I feel like there's got to be a mom watching this, and she's like, how did you get your kid to read the Bible? How'd you steward a 7-year-old's heart to want to be in the Word? What would you say to that mom?
It's still surreal because I didn't grow up with it at all, none of it. And so when I desired to do it because I was asked to by you, I'm like, that sounds great. Let's do it with many people.
Yeah.
She did it because I did it. And that was really it. So we would set aside the time at nighttime right before bed when we can't think. And we would read together. And that was what kept us on track.
Did you guys read the whole thing out loud together?
No,
Okay.
no,
In our
because
heads.
I was too slow for her to read. Like every
Your
time.
mom was too slow.
No, and I love it.
And Mom.
You can check out the rest of this interview right here or by going to BibleRevival.tv. And if this show has blessed you, you can help us bless others by partnering with us for as little as $20 a month and help us to expand the reach of this show. We'd also like to invite you to join our Kingdom Discipleship Program, where you have an opportunity to get on weekly Bible Zoom calls with us and people around the world to deep dive into His Word. And you can check all that out at BibleRevival.tv. I'll see you next time, my friend.